Liverpool are flying. 5 games into the Premier League season, they have won all 5 in dramatic fashion. And even in a Champions League fixture this past week, Liverpool managed to grab the W. One of the only few clubs in world football today that have won every single one of their games. I think the only other club is Real Madrid, so very prestigious company with that regard. But a lot of people have been questioning Liverpool's success and the actual quality of football that Liverpool have been putting out there. So today, me and my good friend Gio, who's also on TikTok, so you guys should definitely check him out. We're going to be talking about whether this Liverpool form and this Liverpool success is sustainable. With that being said, welcome back to another episode of the Basement Ballers, guys. We appreciate all of your support. We recently hit 500 subs, and that's all because of you. Today, we're going to talk all about Liverpool, what we've seen so far. I'm going to throw the first question at Gio. Gio, obviously, you're a avid Liverpool supporter. We've all seen you on the channel so many times. We already know what you're about. But how do you feel so far, knowing that your club is 6 for 6, but some of the performances themselves have been a bit up and down, you could say?
Yeah, regarding on how I feel good. I mean, I don't think, you can really ask for more. Regarding the points, right? We have 6 out of 6. Champions League is league phase, so obviously we count that as 3 points as well. It's good, going into the season, I checked our fixtures. And the first 5, I did think they were going to be a bit tough. People were writing off Bournemouth this season. They had lost their whole back line. But I do think they are still a very tough side under Andy Iraola. Obviously, going to St. James's away, it's not easy. Arsenal at home was always going to be tough. And the Merseyside derby itself it's its own occasion. So result-wise, obviously very very pleased. You did bring up the performances. The performances are something that I would say has to improve. I mean, considering how we started last season, even though up until this point we did have a loss, we did look way more, defined, way more refined in our structure, even in our attack as well. So, I do think it's going to take time, but overall, I'm pretty pleased with, how Liverpool are playing at the moment.
Yeah, and you actually bring up Bournemouth, which I think because me and you, we did a Premier League ranking video with our friend Luke.
Mhm.
I think a lot of us actually had Bournemouth relatively low. Maybe you had them a bit higher than the rest of us. Because of
Yeah.
like obviously them losing Kirkes over the summer, Hoyson, like 2 of their like biggest players that were leading to their success last season. But it's really interesting to see that Areola has actually like managed to maintain their form and actually improve on it. Because bro, if you think about it, Bournemouth have only lost to us this season. They are three. They have
Yeah.
3 wins in their last 5. They only lost to us in their first game, and then they drew. I want to say was it on Sunday or on Saturday. So I one of those they basically they drew their game. So overall, fourth in the Premier League table after 5 games is very impressive for a side that a lot of us had kind of written off in a sense. So that was in and of itself a tough game. We had Newcastle, which we all know, we all saw in a fair world, Newcastle should have came away with something in that game, right?
Mhm.
But that being said, every other game, in my opinion, Liverpool were the better side. Whether you want to look at the scoreboard, you want to look at Liverpool are winning. Some people are saying, "Oh, they're only winning by 1 goal difference." It's like, okay, well, let's look at the games and let's break down the games. We were better than Arsenal. Let's just keep it straight. We were better than Burnley by a large margin. Atletico Madrid, we
Yeah.
were better than Atletico Madrid. And then this past game against Everton, I would say that maybe for 20 minutes of that game, Everton were looking better than we were, but we were better from the start in that game. And the stats sheets show it, just the eye test shows it. And overall, for a team that has signed as many players as they have signed and all the changes that we have made, I don't think that that's too bad, honestly. And what I think, and maybe and you can speak on this a little bit as well, is
Mhm.
I feel we can only get better from here.
Yeah, I agree. And you bring up breaking down each game. I want to kind of contextualize it a bit. The 3 teams that we have played, Arsenal, Bournemouth, and Newcastle, have very good defenses. I think I read something that they've conceded the least amount of XG out of all the other teams in the Premier League. So that shows you we're getting goals, we're finding ways to win against teams that have very solid defenses. And you say, can it only get better from here? I think a lot of people are micro analyzing Liverpool's um their performances and how we're playing. I think part of that is copium, because only from now we can only get better. There's no way that Liverpool are only going to be playing this way for the next 10, 15 games of the season. I'm one who believes that the teams really start to peak around October, November time. So we could, quite frankly, be seeing the best of Liverpool coming up pretty soon. So yeah, I think there have been signs though in games. I don't know if you agree with me, but I think against Everton that was our best performance in the Premier League at least. Up until that point, I think we played very well against Atletico Madrid as well. So you're seeing it gel a bit. Even defensively, I think we're starting to play a bit better. It was just some of the goals we've been conceding lately have just been wonder goals. Like the Llorente one, that was pretty unlucky. And the Idrissa Gana Gueye one, he rifled it into the top corner. So it's a mix of, yes, we have been not playing up to our standard and what you'd expect, especially with all the signings that we've brought in, but we played some tough teams, and the fact that we've been able to find ways to win, albeit in the last minute of the game, is still very impressive.
Yeah, for sure, brother. And like we made changes to very key points of our squad. We have two new
Mhm.
fullbacks. Really, even if you want to talk about Sabazlai, who's already been a player with us for the last two seasons, but he's been playing a lot of fullback roles for us at right back. A right back. That's a new role for him, and although he's excelling in it, it's still a new player. For Konate's perspective, it's still a new player that you have to sort of gel with on your right hand side. Not to give excuses, I don't think Konate has been at his best per se, but I do think that when it comes to team defending, because that's really what you have to do in these cases, especially when teams are counterattacking you, that's how they're playing. You have to rely on
Mhm.
team defending, and when you have major changes in sort of right back, left back, and then even in our midfield as well, the way that we've rearranged ourselves a little bit there, it does kind of bring things into context as to why Liverpool are taking perhaps a bit longer defensively to sort of deal with teams. And that being said, brother, as well, like you mentioned, obviously that we're playing against teams that haven't really conceded a lot. Arsenal, for example, have only conceded 2 goals this season. Period. One of them was on
Mhm.
Sunday against Manchester City. The other one was against us. The Sabazlai
Yeah.
wonder free kick, right? Um, we are managing to capitalize on teams that in an ideal world are defending super well, and a lot of them, Arsenal, Burnley, Atletico Madrid, uh these are teams that have been playing low block against us, a system that we have like notoriously struggled against these last few seasons.
Mhm.
We have gone in and won all of those games. So I think when you're right, when you put things into context, it really says, you know what? No, I'm actually pretty impressed with the way Liverpool has managed to play against these low blocking teams. And quite frankly, we already know that a lot of these lower, like these lower Premier League table sides, they're going to opt to play this kind of style against us. And if we have already shown that we're able to sort of play against that, I'm actually really optimistic for the future. We now sit 5 points atop of the Premier League table. And we're only 5 games in, so that's definitely nothing to sort of snooze at. But that being said, there's another aspect of people's criticisms for Liverpool is that perhaps we've been recruiting a little bit in positions that we don't really need. Okay, so let's actually
Mhm.
talk about the elephant in the room. That is the Alexander Isak. Of course, he started against Atletico Madrid, and I thought, in my opinion, he played very well against Atletico Madrid for the time that he was in, about 60 minutes or so.
Mhm.
But then we also have a 95 million euro signing in Hugo Ekitike, who's been off to a phenomenal start for Liverpool. So, what do you think about Isak's role and how we might utilize him moving forward, and how that actually will help Liverpool reach their potential come November, for example, like you said?
Yeah, what do I think about Isak's role? I think, it's gonna be tough because um I think he's gonna start, me personally. You don't really spend the British transfer fee on a player and don't necessarily start him, right? Um, I think it's going to be pretty interesting for Slot to try to find a way to incorporate Ekitike in the team as well, because when we watch him play, right, this kid's very special. the way he's occupying those central spaces, but he can also drift out wide. I've seen a couple times where he's done that step over onto his left foot and go down the bar line and send a cross in. He's very good at 1v1, so it's going to be interesting. Do we see a world where we play Ekatike on the left and Isak on down the middle and they interchange, or is it the other way around, but they still interchange? Do we change system? So that's going to be pretty interesting for me. Isak, I'm very excited to see what he does. We saw a glimpse of him against Atleti. Didn't really do much against Everton, to be fair. I think that was kind of more down to how the game was going. We were kind of a bit on the back foot in the second half, more so defending that lead. But what we saw from him against Atletico Madrid was very promising. We're talking about a guy who, hasn't played football in 4 months, and you can say, okay, well, he's been doing individual training, but if you speak to a lot of people in sports science, they'll tell you that really the only true way that you can really get fit in football is playing football. You can't really mimic those turns, those change angles. You can't really do that when you're just running by yourself and running in a straight line. It's very difficult to replicate that. So from what I saw against Atleti, he picked up the ball in some very dangerous positions, nearly scored a goal, played very well, got past a couple Atletico Madrid players. I think we did see his quality, even though it was just 60 minutes in the game. So yeah, I think his positioning is going to be very, or his role is going to be very interesting to see what Slot has him doing. But if I had to give my final verdict on the matter, I would say he starts for us more
Hmm.
often than not.
Yeah, for sure, brother. And I think actually on that, I think Gakpo might be the one who ends up kind of playing a reduced role to what we saw last season.
Mhm.
You might say a little bit unjustly because of how he performed for us last season. He's been off to a decent start for us, maybe not as prolific as we were seeing last season, um, we know that the quality is there for Gakpo, and we know that he can show up for us in big moments. So that's definitely not something I'm super concerned with. Let's move on to one of our other big transfers that we had. A man who a lot might say that like has struggled to get his um, so like maybe his momentum or his feet off the ground for us, Florian Wirtz. So I think you can agree to this. Like we've seen like really like, glimpses of his incredible technical skills and his abilities. Especially against, I really was actually pretty impressed with how he played against Atletico, and I think a lot of us were expecting that because of the nature of a Champions League fixture, how this game kind of slows down, and that's where Florian Wirtz
Mhm.
perhaps excels. But that being said, like, are you concerned with sort of how Florian Wirtz has started for us? Obviously, the 007 memes are going pretty crazy. But are you concerned at all with his start? How do you feel about that?
Um, realistically, for me, my opinion on the matter has always been it's about what you expect from Verts. Now, obviously, 150 million, that's euros. It's 100 million fixed fee, pounds. Obviously, that includes add-ons and all that, but it depends on what you expect, right? Before we signed Verts, he was linked with Manchester City, and he was seen as the De Bruyne replacement. And a lot of people were saying, "Oh, if we do sign him, he's gonna take De Bruyne's role and do this and that." If you expected Verts to come in and do what De Bruyne does, what a Cole Palmer does, and that's get ridiculous amounts of goals and ridiculous amounts of assists, and is scoring long shots. He can do that, right? That's in his game, but that's not his strong suit. Verts is more of an and I did say this in one of your lives, and I did get ridiculed for it, but he's more of a mold of a Pedri, but in a more of an attacking sense. Now, when I say that, I don't mean that he's the Pedri, but he has attacking attributes. I'm saying the play styles, right? He's more of a player that's gonna pick up the ball deep, drive forward, create spaces, find those pockets, be very good in tight spaces. So for me, I kind of expected this to like a little bit. Now, I didn't expect the performances to be this, underwhelming. You say we've seen some moments of incredible technical brilliance, and I agree. There has been some moments, where he's dribbled past a couple players, he's received the ball in the half turn, he's had some few good passes. But I don't know if you agree with me on this, but I feel like he just looks a little timid at times. There's times where he could drive the ball forward. There is times where he could play that expansive pass. There's times where he can take that pop shot, but I feel like he's playing a little bit too, too reserved, playing too safe, and that's not the player that we know Florian Wirtz to be. We know him to be that player that's gonna break the lines, that's gonna look for that pass, that's probably gonna have the odd shot from outside the edge of the box. So, I don't know. Do you agree with me in the point that he's playing a bit timid? Do you think this is we signed what we signed? I think it's just him having to adapt to the league and having to adapt to that physicality, especially when it comes to the amount of time he has on the ball, because we know in the Bundesliga he has more space in front of him compared to in the Premier League. I just wanted to know your opinion on that personally.
Yeah, so actually, like one thing that I think we tend to forget is that players are online. Players do see what we say. Like, and what I mean by that is like obviously Florian Wirtz is a guy. He's a 22-year-old brother. He was definitely remember that there was a bunch of rumors about he wants to come and steal McAllister's number 10, and he obviously
Mhm.
saw that they filmed the video together. It was like this funny thing, but that video to
Yeah.
me just tells me these brothers are online. They see the noise, right? When Isak signed for
Mhm.
Liverpool, it wasn't about, oh, Liverpool overpaid for Isak. Nothing was ever said about that, in my opinion. The only thing that was kind of said that was controversial about that move was obviously his conduct with Newcastle. Florian Wirtz from the get go, it was like people were preying on the dude downfall, and people were adamant that he doesn't deserve his 100 million pound price tag. And whether, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm a big believer as the player doesn't determine the price, the market does. The price is the price,
Yeah.
and we just paid what the market has deemed to be his price tag at the end of the day. But a lot of people have been honing in on, oh, he's going to be a flop. He's going to be a flop. He's going to be a flop. Nothing of that nature was ever said about Isak, for example, even Ekitike to an extent. But Florian Wirtz, for whatever reason, was getting a lot of that sort of that negative hatred and whatever. And so I think from that perspective, from a psychological perspective, when you talk about being timid, it's it's understandable why that might be the case because perhaps you are over analyzing every single one of your moves in order to not make a mistake. I think overall, when you talk about Liverpool Football Club, where he has so many good role models, over time, I do believe that he's going to start just focusing on his game and blocking out the noise. And then he won't care about this. He won't be thinking about, oh, I have to make the right move. No, it'll just come naturally. And I think that with time, it will come naturally. Um, because again, bro, we see the quality there, and
Yeah.
it's just because you pay 100 million. This is the other point. Just because you pay 100 million pounds for a player doesn't mean that automatically they're going to come into this fresh new league. By the way, the number one league in the world, the toughest league to adapt to in the world. Doesn't mean that this 100 million player is going to come to this league and automatically gel, right, or automatically be ready. No, it takes time, and if this was a year down the line and he's still not really like performing the way that we then okay then maybe I'll understand the critique, but for now 6 games in, we have seen some really nice moments from him. I think he's definitely up for the task, and we just got to give him more time. And under Slot, to be honest, bro, we've seen what this brother has done with the likes of like a Gravenberch, for example, how he's taken a young talented brother who perhaps has lost his way and lost some confidence at Bayern Munich and has brought him in and really flourished under Arne Slot. So I do have hope that he'll be able to do the same with Florian Wirtz. So I'm excited for that. Um, the other point that I wanted to touch on, not briefly, but I did want to touch on is how overwhelmingly positive, right, this young man Ryan Gravenberch has been for us. Like the way that this
Yeah.
man has again sort of kind of forgotten about his time at Bayern and just really has capitalized on his opportunities as a perennial starter for Liverpool has been absolutely incredible. And I just want you to speak a little bit on what Gravenberch means for our team and like the success that you think this man can bring to us given his form at the moment.
Honestly, if you would have told me that we were recording a video just to talk about Ryan Gravenberch for an hour, I would have just been there immediately. Ryan Gravenberch is one of my favorite players. I can't lie, I would say he's my favorite player to watch at Liverpool. You know, when we rank the importance of players in our team, I'd say the top two is Salah and Van Dijk because yeah, Van Dijk is the captain and Salah, we know he's been the top scorer at Liverpool since he's joined. But Ryan Gravenberch is just so unique in that you saw last season with Slot. We were chasing Zubamendi all season, and we didn't get him, and a lot of people were saying, "Oh, what are we gonna do in the midfield? We don't have a six." You know, we saw McAllister play it the season before Slot had come, and it worked, but it wasn't sustainable.
Mm.
Obviously, he puts McAllister next to Gravenberg, and Gravenberg just from the first game,
Magic.
it's magic,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And I remember through that spell, he had a good game against Ipswich, and he had a good game against Brentford. And it was time to go to Old Trafford, and a lot of people were saying, "Well, I'll wait until he goes to Old Trafford, can you see what he does?" And this, that, and the third. And he absolutely bossed it. He was one of the best players on the pitch. And I think last season, me personally, he tailed off towards the end of last season, but I thought he was the best midfielder in the Premier League last season. You know, you talk about him when it comes to his attributes. I think when he receives the ball on the half turn and the drop of the shoulder and the spin, I think he's the best player in the world at that. I think there's no player in the world better than Gravenberg with the ball, but with you know, the ball behind his back, or
Mm.
him behind the player's back. I meant to say.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, he's wonderful, and another thing he's added to his game this season has been goals and assists.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he had that wonderful strike at St. James's Park. He got the assist against Atletico Madrid, scored against Everton. Wonderful goal, by the way. I don't know if you
Lovely.
remember, but it kind of reminded me of the Ronaldo goal that he scored at Anfield in 2014.
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
kind of reminded me of that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then he gets an assist in that game as well. You know, I think he's very important. You know, we didn't have him in the Bournemouth game because he picked up a red card in the last day of the season, so it kind of transferred over there. And you saw in midfield, Bournemouth, they were playing very well. They were moving the ball. We had trouble dealing with their press. You know, Gravenberg is one of the most press resistant players in the Premier League. So, and he offers that physicality, he offers that range of passing. For me, he's an absolutely special player, and it's very, you know, nice to see that he's panned out to be one of the best midfielders, in my opinion, in the world. Because when he was at Ajax, we played them in the Champions League in the group stages in 2020. I thought he played very well in that game too. And at that time, it was him and Bellingham on the rise. It was, oh, who's better, him or Bellingham? Obviously, Bellingham went on to have the career that he's having. Um, but I think now Gravenberg is getting the proper respect that he deserves, because for
Mm-hmm.
me, he was always one of the most talented midfielders in the world.
Mm-hmm.
He had the attributes, and he still possesses them. I think those 2 years at Bayern, or no, was it a year? I think it was, yeah, the 2 years at Bayern. It was tough for him. Then he played a full season at Liverpool after he signed his first full season where he actually started under Slot. I think that's why he kind of tailed off towards the end of the season, because he wasn't really getting that much rest. But I think this season, if Slot can properly manage him, then Gravenberg will show you why he's one of, if not the best midfielders in the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, brother, I agree. I agree. He's not. I don't want to say slowly, but he is becoming one of my favorite players to watch at Liverpool. Obviously, before Trent left, Trent was up there. But for me, Ryan Gravenberch is such a special player. His composure is something that's really like for me. Yeah, of course, I love the way that I love his ability on the half turn, the way that he can create space, and obviously now that he's added a GA to his game, it's just like incredible to watch. But for me, his composure, he's unshakable. He's the kind of guy, like, he'll
Oh
do
yeah.
shit with a smile. So that's the kind of quality I really love in a player. You see it in Van Dijk, just very composed. You see it in Salah, just very composed. And it's a player that not it's an attribute that not a lot of players have. It's very something that you have naturally when you're confident. And he's
Mhm.
been very confident for us. I really do. No, I really love Ryan Gravenberch, and I think that, like, um, crazy enough, we haven't seen the best of him. He's still so young, right? Not a lot of people talk
Yeah.
about just how young he is. But yeah, brother. All right, so I think it's great that we can, like, wrap this topic up with the following. So obviously, we're not delusional Liverpool fans. We understand that Liverpool, despite being 6 for 6, it has not been smooth sailing. A number
Mhm.
of 5 late winners for Liverpool, which is virtually like, this used to happen in the Sir Alex Ferguson days for Man United. But virtually, this is something that's very hard to do in the dying moments, really just switching on and getting the game winning goal. So I have really been impressed. It does put Liverpool fans a bit on their seat, on the edge of their seat. But given our analysis today, I would like you just to tell us what your expectations for Liverpool are this season, and sort of just in terms of performances, but also in terms of trophies. And then we will wrap it up with that.
Yeah, in terms of performances, obviously to play better,
Hmm.
you know, start, passing, yeah, sorry, completing some passes more, getting a foothold to the game, stop giving away 2-0 leads like we've done plenty of times. When you talk about trophies, last season, if you told me Liverpool were going to win the league, I wouldn't. Not that I wouldn't have believed you, but it would have been pretty hard to believe considering how good City and Arsenal were. We won the league. I gave that a 9 out of 10 season. I enjoyed it. I was at the parade in Liverpool. I absolutely enjoyed it. But this season, I think it's imperative that we do retain the league. I think we're the best team in the league. I'll go as far as to say I think we're the best team in the world. And when you are the best team in the world, you win your domestic league and you go as far as you can in the Champions League as well. And so I think, if we can win the Premier League, pick up a cup because last season Newcastle beat us, and I know with the context of the time that we were playing Newcastle, we just had come off losing to PSG in extra time and the players were tired, but I don't think that's an excuse. I think you win a cup, whether that's the League Cup, whether that's the FA Cup, and you go as far as you can in the Champions League. And I want to see, this is a kind of a bonus. We're talking about Liverpool, but a bonus would be to see one of our players, win a Ballon d'Or. I think that would be very, very nice to see as well. So with expectations, I'd say retain the league, win a cup, and see how far we can go in the Champions League. And I think a lot of Liverpool fans would be very pleased with that.
Hmm. Yeah, brother, I agree. I've said this a number of times on live streams, for example. I think I'll never be disappointed at Liverpool winning a trophy. Like at the end of the day, I'll always be excited for Liverpool to win the trophy. But I do have expectations. And one of those expectations is that I would obviously love Liverpool to win at least one of the major trophies, whether that be the Premier League title or the Champions League title. If we win one and not the other, I'm not going to be super like annoyed. But that being said, it would be nice also to at least do a domestic double.
Mm.
And so that's my expectation for the season. If we come away with the season with just like a league cup, for example, I'll be pretty disappointed. I won't lie to you. But that being said, I do know, and that's the reason why I'd be disappointed, is just because I know the ceiling that this club has, and quite frankly, it's above a lot of the ceilings of other clubs in world football today. So that's what I believe, guys. In the comments, watching this video, you heard Gio's opinion. You heard my opinion on Liverpool and their pseudo struggles leading up to the what's it called, to their next fixture against Southampton on Tuesday, which is a Carabao Cup fixture, by the way. We want to know what your opinion on Liverpool is. Is their success a false success? Is it just something that can't be sustained? Or do you think that it's only up from here? Please, in the comments, let us know. Guys, all of the social media, including Gio's social media, will be in the description. I do encourage you guys to go check it out. Also, a special link, a Discord link in the description as well, for a Discord called the Ballers Academy. That is our special Discord with almost 150 of y'all talking about your favorite clubs, bantering other people, and just having a nice time. So I do encourage you guys to join the Ballers Academy. Gio, thank you so much for being on the show today, buddy. It's not the first time we see you. It won't be the last. People love to hear your analysis and stuff. Me being, of course, your biggest supporter. I appreciate you for being on, buddy. And hopefully, guys, we'll see you guys on the next episode. Peace out.